I feel so bad for Sunjay the most in this drama, The Lovely Runner, because this man, he's so in love, but he suffered the most here. Like he needs a happy ending. And it's the fact that, Soul's past life, past self, she blamed him the most for the accident, for well, not accident, for what happened. Then she blamed the person who actually, hit her, because in her mind she believed it was a car accident, but she was more angry at him than she was at the person who kidnapped her.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another review on the Review Garden.
And this is what I was saying. Like, if he rescued her, that would mean that, he would have to fight the guy, or the guy knows his identity. So, in the first few minutes of episode 7, and quick disclaimer, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch episodes 7 and 8 prior to listening to the review. I'm like, if he saw his face, he would have to, he would also be in trouble, right? And let's think again, like when she's like, her past self was the worst villain in her life. It's true, because she was really, I don't know what's the word to describe her, really, because one, I understand, like, there are reasons where, you know, there are reasons, obviously, you're coming home from school, it's late, you're sleeping on the bus. But if you're by yourself, traveling by yourself, you need to be more careful and more aware of your surroundings, especially at night. And then she wakes up, she just gets out of the bus and don't even know where she got off, right? And the area, she's the only one there by herself, no one no one there to help her. Obviously, I'm not putting the blame on her, but it's a crazy situation, and you just need to, like, I don't know, be more aware of your surroundings. At least she saw, you know, the cab inside the cabin. She was like, okay, I'm not gonna get in there, you know. But the whole situation leading to her accident is just, like, you don't want to think about that stuff. Like, you don't want to be in that kind of situation. And luckily he was there. He decided to stay on the bus with her because she was sleeping. But not many people are lucky enough to have somebody, who's looking out for them like that. And yeah, and he even went through his own thing fighting with the guy. And when he saw her fall in the thing, he never, said, I like you, or he never even, talked to her at all in the past um, timeline. So he even went through something too. It wasn't just her. And also, keep in mind, during that time frame of her accident, her mom was also in the hospital. Her mom just had surgery to remove, because I think her mom was had cancer or something, and they caught it early. So there's that. So she was in the hospital. So her mom is in the hospital. So think in the past life, right? She has her accident. Her mom is in the hospital. So all this thing, and then everything just circles back around her. And it's like, okay, I don't know. It's it's too much to think about. Too much. So she the fact that her future self is in the past, she was able to, free herself from the guy. And because this time around he went by her house, and if you remember, he had her phone, called her house, and you know her grandma picked up, and her grandma gave the address for him to return the phone, so he knew where she lived. So this time around he picked her up by her house, brought her back to the reservoir, and she managed to escape pretty much like the first time. But this time around she took the keys, and she went to she ran, and all the way back to the reservoir where Sunjay was like waiting, to come find her. What annoys me with this is the fact that, you know, they make the police look so lazy. You tell the girl comes, and she lost her wallet and her phone. She said on September 1st something's going to happen to me. Then you have another person come to you and says like someone's missing, and you don't try to do anything about it. I don't know. It's just weird. And the person who came to meet up with her, wasn't that Taesung's dad? I think so. I think that's who it was. And they have they have the, would I say, funniest or weirdest way of making her go back to the future. Because as soon as, Soon Jae finds her, and, Taesung's dad finds her, she goes back to the future, and it's still past Soul. And past Soul doesn't know who he is, right? Because she's so in love with Taesong, she doesn't know who he is. So now he finished like doing this thing where he like runs to rescue her, and she has no idea who he is. And then she goes back to the future, but apparently she's on set. So she's thinking like she went all the way back to the past, to the Joseon era, because when because when she came back to the future, apparently now she's an actress of some sort. She's an actress, and she yeah, she's an actress, and she was on set. So she thought like she went all the way in the past. So it's hilarious the way like they do these things. So now she only has one one more one more time to travel back into the past. But if she's in the future now and she could walk, the question is, why would she need to go back to the past, right? So as Soul is in the future, well, I guess this would be her present self now. Well, a different alternative to her present self. She remembered the promise that she had with Sunjae to tell him to meet her at the bridge so that they can pull out the time capsule. And then when she went to where the time capsule was, everything was just so different. So she went to Sunjae's condo building, and she's wearing a white puffer coat. And apparently Sunjay has a stalker who was wearing the same white puffer coat. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could see where this is going. So they mistake her for being the stalker, and they bring her to the police station. And Sunjay decides like he doesn't want to, press charges, even though he was the one who, you know, filed the report to have the cops come. Um, and he's like, he doesn't want to press charges. And she goes crazy. She's like, what do you mean he doesn't want to press charges? He should press charges. Like, these people are crazy. And I'm like, girl, if you press charges, you're the one that's going to go to jail because they think the stalker is you. But apparently, in this current timeline, she's, I'm guessing, a film director because she said that's what she wanted to be. And when I don't know who he is yet, but there was a third person with Sunjay and Sunjay's best friend. And he was like, oh, she was the one who handed them the script. So in this timeline, I'm guessing Sunjay's an actor. But it doesn't seem like him and his friend were ever in the band. And when he came home, I was like, and then he touched the fur coat. I was like, no, don't tell me he has a girlfriend because they just showed you somebody in the tub. Like, I was like, no, he better not have a girlfriend because in the other one, he never dated anyone. Okay, he never dated anyone. So why would you put a girlfriend in this timeline, right? So when he got closer, he was like, when did you get here? And I was like, oh my God, why? So then his friend came out of his friends like poked his head out. And I was like, oh, thank God. It's not a girl. And it's weird, their dynamic, like before they were even closer, but here they're a little bit, then I don't know, their chemistry is a little, it's not the same as when they were in high school. Maybe it will be, who knows, but right now I'm not seeing it. So, and with him calling Sunjay a diva because Sunjay didn't want to do the movie role. So now they're thinking that she's stalking him because he said no to the movie. And when she went home, everything of Sunjay disappeared because technically it makes sense that she never became a fan of him. And the only reason she knows who he is because is technically in the timeline that they are in, technically she doesn't know him because that's why they weren't like, oh, a big deal was made when she gave him the script, right? Because technically if the timeline that she came into was the continuation of when she was saved, she didn't know who Sunjay was. And the fact that she didn't get into her accident and want to die, there's no reason for her to become a big fan of Eclipse, right? So her room doesn't have all the posters that it had. And since now her time, I guess you can call it her time travel self, is into this timeline, is into this body, you know, that's the reason why she knows who Sunjay is. Why is she wearing that puffer coat? to go meet Sunjay, right? Like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And when she gets there, she doesn't even like take it off or whatever, right? So, um, her boss gets mad at her for, you know, being at his condo. So she's like, you need to fix this. You need to fix this. You need to go meet him, right? So she schedules to go meet him, and she's wearing the same puffer coat again. So, while she's waiting for him to come in, in the preview when they were like, when he was like, "Who are you? Do we know each other?" I thought like it was real, but he, but she was dreaming it. So maybe he does know who she is. I don't know, but truthfully, in all the interactions, well, no. Okay, truthfully, in all the interactions that they've had with each other, he's never seen her face, right? But he saw her card. The other guy pointed at her name. So he saw her name. So he should know who she is, right? Because if they're in the same timeline, so if they're in the continuation, right, of the timeline where she forgot, or where he saved her, and or she saved herself, right? If they're in that same timeline, then, because you could see that, because the whole reason she left is because her friend called her. Her friend is pregnant, and her water broke, so she went to the hospital. And she was like, "My husband did this to me," and she's like, "Who's your husband? I'm going to thank him." And then her husband is Soul's brother. So, and you could see in the timeline when she went back, right, the second time, that that her best friend was in love with the brother, and they were doing all that thing, and he was there for her, when she needed to go to the bathroom and all those other scenes, right? So she had a crush on the brother. So they continued with that. And those two are married and having a child, right? So could it be that if he acts like he doesn't know who she is, it's because she was left? Because when she left, when Future Soul left and came back to this future, and Sunjay saved her, she was like, "Who are you?" So there's a possibility that they were never friends, they were never friendly, and she was probably mean to him, and they never interacted with each other again. So this time around, when she's back here, he doesn't want anything to do with her because she probably broke his heart. So now it's like, how is she going to make up for that? Is she going to go back to the past to do what, though? I don't know. And there was something that they said, because when she asked her mom about the accident, her mom was like 14 years ago, and she repeated 14 years ago, not 15 years ago, but she came back in 2023, right? So that part's a little confusing. We'll see how they clear that up. So yeah, Sunjay did know who she was. So it's just like in the preview, it just showed you that, what they showed you in the preview was her what was her thought, right? So she was thinking like that's what he was gonna say. But And like I said before, he's never seen her face. He never saw her face when she hit him in the fountain. He never saw her face when they arrested her downstairs, right? Thinking that she's the stalker. But I'm just saying, like, he didn't see her name on the paper to know that it was her. But anyway, or her business card, or maybe the other guy didn't, his driver or assistant never actually gave him the stuff, because when with his concert, she was like, at least tell him my name, blah blah blah. So it turns out that his concert was delayed, so it was pushed back. So instead of being, you know January 1st, it was January 13th through the 15th. So she went to the concert pretty much the same way. And then she went to go wait for him on the bridge because she saw that everything that happened that night was happening again, starting with the snow, starting with her phone falling and cracking, right? And then, so she went to wait on the bridge. And then he showed up on the bridge as well, similar to before. And then so she's thinking like everything that's happening everything that's happening right now happened before. So when the driver came and told him, "Hey, we need to get your response because of the after party," she was like, "No, don't go." And then she was like, let's spend the night together, right?" So she's still saying it like so innocently and like trying to protect him kind of way, and this man is just like, huh? Like his heart is just going like boo 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 boo. You're like, oh my gosh, this man's about to die. Like, not, oh, but so that's how they ended episode 7. So episode 8 looks like it's going to be more of a, lovey-dovey type of thing where he's acting just as silly as, just as cute as before in the previous episodes, where he likes her, but she's acting all oblivious type of thing. But it seems like her mom said the guy was caught, but it looks like someone is stalking them in the preview for episode 8. So it may be that um the person is going to come back. And based on, how everything worked out, yeah, it really is the continuation of where she left. So, after he rescued her, and her spirit her spirit pretty much went into the future and left her past self there. um you know she was like, "Who are you?" And she never interacted with him. But her brother, remembered everything that happened, and he was like, "I can't believe you let him go, or you let him slip through your fingers. Like, he could have been, you know, my children's uncle, like, you should call him, you should go see him," type of thing. So yeah, so I think that's the continuation of that. And now that it's her knowing spirit, then now she's going to try and change the way the future's gonna go. But I think the main question is too, it's like, is she gonna go to the past, what happened to Taesung, right? Because he doesn't seem to be one of the um one of the band players. So what happened to him? And is she going to have a need to go back to the past? Or is this just going to be the continuation of the show? Seeing how their love now, how their love story is going to develop from this point on. I would rather see that, how it continues from this point on. This is like episode 7. Yeah. And there's 16 episodes, but you know, it is showing you dark times ahead with the stalker, but I would really just like it to continue over here because there's really no reason for her to go back, you know, because he remembers her and she remembers that he likes her. Let's develop the story here, right? There are some things that I thought about last night and this morning before watching, after watching episode 7, before watching episode 8. And it's one, I'm guessing that the person that is standing in front of his building is probably the guy who went maybe he got released, because technically it's like 14, 15 years later he got released from jail if he was caught, and now he's after them, right? He wants revenge and pretty much the one that got away type of thing, right? And then two, I I did say like, okay, this should be where their romance starts, but part of me feels like he should play hard to get, because because if you think about it, the last 15, 14 years, the only reason they didn't um speak is because it continued from that storyline where she left, where, you know, after she saved herself and after Sunjae saved her, and he she was like, I don't, who are you, right? So it's like, what happened during that time frame, during those years? Because did she go back to Taesong? Because remember, Future Soul told Taesong, even if I come back and I say I still love you, don't take me back. So what exactly did she do? And did she mistreat him? Um, did she mistreat him from that time? But he's still in love with her. You saw that he kept that picture that they took together in his watch drawer. So he still loves her, right? But I feel like he needs to protect his heart too, because she's very chaotic. And with this whole going to the past, going to the future, because the person, the person, the soul that this time traveling soul went into is not talking to him, right? She did not know who he is. Even 15 years later, that person did not like know who he was, right? Even though the brother was like, he, he was with us, she did not interact with him, right? So at any point, if she goes back to the past, that person is still going to, break his heart, because that person is not going to want to interact with him. You know what I mean? So, in that sense, it's like, play hard to get, and then, you know, actually, and then make her fall in love with you, you know, type of thing. Like, that's the kind of story you want to see, instead of him being all, close to getting hurt again. And then the third thing was I was wondering, like, how did he know her phone number? But I guess when because I rewatched the scene where she dropped him in the water, he never took the business card from the friend. So maybe he didn't see her name. So then when she sent him the flowers and the driver put the flowers on the floor, that was the first time he actually looked at it because he noticed that the logo was the same. So he probably took it, read it, and saw that it was her name, and then ran to the bridge. And then that's how he got her phone number. Because I'm like, how? You didn't even know it was her. And then another thing is when he figures out that, oh my gosh, this man's gonna be mortified when he figured out that it was her that he was sending the pictures of his underwear to, that she's the quote stalker. Oh my gosh, he's gonna be mortified. I can't wait to see that. 30 minutes into episode 8 of Lovely Runner, and it's exactly as I predicted, where so he did remember. It's the same timeline of, when she left, right? So he remembered. He's the one who went to go get the time capsule when they were about to bulldoze the place, because when she went back, she saw, like, they made rearrangements or something, like there was a new building there. So the beginning of episode 8, they showed you that he went to the location and dug up the time capsule, and then he went there on January 1st, or New Year's Eve, and he waited for her. And you know it's because the she wasn't in that body, so that's why she wasn't there, and he waited a long time, like an hour, and then until his manager was like, what are you doing waiting in the cold with a egg, right? So she had to so she, and he did read the card from the flowers and saw that it was her name. So that's why he went running and he went to the bridge. So he was pretty excited to see her. And then she's like, because she's trying to make sure he doesn't commit suicide again. But I feel like if he was going to, he would have on New Year's Eve, right? Like, because that's when he did it the first time. So for her to be acting like, oh, I need to stay with him because um he might do something, is kind of crazy, because the day he was supposed to have it, the day he was supposed to die, he didn't die. He didn't commit anything, because that technically, with her not showing up, should have caused him to do that, right? Because if her accident happened the same day, if the fire happened the same day, technically his suicide would have happened the same day as well. So since it didn't, so there's no reason for her to be like, oh, I need to stay with you tonight, right? So then he brought her to a hotel. So she's thinking, like, they're gonna be doing stuff. She's like, it's not an S night, right? And then he's like, what are you talking about? Because she was like, oh, let's spend the night together. So she went into this whole explanation thing, like, yeah, I'm conservative, I'm da. And then he started laughing because they were going to a restaurant in the hotel, not that they were going to a room, right? So he had to leave her because the friend called and was like, "Hey, people are saying that you're at a hotel with some girl. Like, what are you doing?" So he tried to leave, and she pretty much, covered her head and took an umbrella to cover his face, and they went back to his house, right? And the friend is like, "Why? Why? Why? He could fall for any girl, not her." After he rescued her, she didn't do anything. She didn't even say thank you. She was so mean to him. And then I'm like, yeah, because it's her past self that was in the body the whole time. So, but future soul is the one that is that's the one that, that's in love with him, quote, in love with him, because she's not acting like she's in love with him. She's acting like she's trying to protect him. So that's why I'm saying, like, it's better for him to play hard to get and have her fall for him, you know, in the end. And when he went to his house, um, the friend brought a poster, and he was like, "Oh shoot." He like tried to hide it under the table, and then he brought it all the way back to his um then he brought it all the way back to his bedroom. And it's not like she could go back home anyway, because her mom and her grandma left because a pipe broke and they went over to the brother's house. And the guy who kidnapped her before is outside her house. So technically she can't go home. So she needs to figure out a way to tell him, like, "Hey, can I stay over? But it's not an S night. I just want to, like, maybe stay on the couch or something, because she can't go home." But she doesn't know that she can't go home. So she's probably gonna go over to her brother's house because that's where her mom told her to go, right after, wherever she's at. So his friend came, you know, after they I guess that's why he didn't want to go to his house in the first place, because he knows that the friend is always coming in. So, um, he gave her food and all of that because she didn't want to leave. And she got, stuff on her shirt. So he gave her another shirt to change. And then, she was changing in his room. And then that's when he realized that, you know, um, the time capsule was by his bed. So, and when he sent her into his room to go change her shirt, they kind of had like that moment where in Strong Girl Dobun Soon, where, after they finished having that traumatic event, and he wanted them to spend the night together and they didn't, and he was like, "Whew, whew, whew," and he was like doing jumping jacks, push up, just so that he wouldn't have like the urge to. And in this one, his his chest, his heart was beating so fast, and like he got up and he was like punching the pillow, and then that's when he remembered that the time capsule was by his bed. So then he was like, "Are you done?" So he was like, "Okay, if you're done, then get out." So he tried to like take the covers and take his covers and cover the time capsule. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And then while he did that, remember in the beginning when I was like, the he put the poster of the girl um uh, on his bed, and he covered it. So while he's uncovering it, she comes back into the room, and then she sees the cut up of the game of the girl it on his bed, and then he's like freaking out, and she's like, don't worry, like, I understand why you would be into that kind of stuff. And then he was just like, oh my gosh, he was like, no, no, it's not mine. So like they're like fighting for the covers, and then they give you that scene where he pulls the covers, but she was holding on to it, and like she falls on the bed and he falls on top of her. And then that's when his friend comes in, and so he like hid her in the closet, and the friend is like, "Oh my gosh, are you like what are you doing? What are you doing?" He's like, "Go take a shower. Go take a shower," right? So when he gets to the bathroom, he sees the photo of the two of them together that they took a long time ago. So so he comes back and he's like, why is this here? Don't tell me you're still interested in her. You're surrounded by all these women who are prettier than her. Why are you still hung up on her? Like, you haven't even been in a real relationship. So then um so then that's when they showed you like all the times that he got drunk, and like in 2012, 2016 or something, and then 2019. Every time he gets drunk, he's always like calling out her name, and I'm like, you make me want to hug you. It's so sad. Like I can't take it. Like, oh my gosh. So then um so then he just picked up the friend and went and threw him in the bathtub, and then he's like, take your bath. So then when he gets out, she saw the time capsule, and she opened it and whatnot. So then he brought her home, and then that's when she came clean and was like, oh, I liked you too in the past, and I wanted to see you again. Da, 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 da. And then she went she went to her house, and he ran up after her, and then they shared a kiss, and they were so happy, and I'm like, why couldn't y'all just give them a moment, like give them a moment to be happy, to like go on a couple of dates, right? It's episode 8. We still have 9 more. We still have 8 more episodes after this. Like, why did you have to cut it so short, right? So like they have like it happened in the morning, and then they went to work, and then they were like, he called her, and they were talking about seeing each other that same night. So it was barely any time, like couple of hours of them being lovey-dovey with each other, right? Like, she saved his name under 3 hearts, 3 yellow hearts, and he saved her name under soul and a red heart, right? So instead of going home, um, while he tried to go home, the stalker was there, and she had to go to his place because that's she left her car, right? Because she drove him to his house after they ran away from the hotel, right? And then he drove her home that morning, so her car was still at his house. So she went to go get her car, and someone stopped in front of her, and she thought that it was the guy who kidnapped her a long time ago. But when the guy came out, you know she realized that the stalker was right there. So the security guard was like, "Ugh, the bane of my existence, this girl." So she runs after the stalker, right? And then we have the scene, since Sunjay didn't want to stay at his house now because the stalker was there. He was like, he told his manager, "Bring me to the hotel." So while he's at the hotel, it's the same scene replaying, right? You had the picture that they had together on top of his wallet, and then he was wearing the same exact shirt, same exact hotel room, and he was on the balcony um on the phone with his manager. And then, they kept playing phone tag. Her phone was off after they talked to each other, and then he called her like 8 times, and then she called him, and then he called her back. But while he was on the phone with his manager, there was someone knocking on the door. The same thing that happened, you know, the night that he fell into the water, right? That he, quote, committed suicide. There was someone knocking at the door, and we didn't know who was knocking at the door at that time. So I'm guessing episode 9, they're going to start it with showing us the scene of what happened the night he quote committed suicide, which I feel like whoever was knocking on that door at that time had, I said this before, like whoever was not probably had something to do with it and probably like pushed him or something, right? So um so the person knocking at his door this time around was the guy who kidnapped her, and he pretty much like stabbed him and all that stuff. So Sunjay was taken to the hospital, and I'm like, you could have let them enjoy this moment, because it took forever to get here, right? So um yeah, so now it's like, is he going to pull through? He has to. And if he does pass away, then I guess that's when she's going to use her other she still has one more. Yeah, but what would be the point of going back, right? Like if she does go back, how is she going to save him? Because technically, quote, this time around, it didn't happen by himself. Someone else did it. So she because the guy was caught, he just was let go. So the only way for you to stop it from happening in the future is to actually kill the guy in the past, right? Kill the kidnapper in the past. But my thing is, why is he so obsessed with her? Is it because she's the one that got away? Like, I don't understand why he escaped. Well, can't remember if they said he was released or if he escaped. But his 15 years was probably all he got. And so, he came out and decided to take revenge. He did see his face. He did see his face the night of the accident, and he did see him leave Soul's place. So it's like, what is your obsession with this girl? But all in all, this episode was a nice one. We're halfway through the series, so it's like, okay, well, where is this story going now? If he, like I said, if he passes away, she would want to go back to the past. But if he makes it, it's gonna be more now of a recovery, and her trying, both of them trying to figure out how to bring the guy down, right? And this wraps up our journey on the Review Garden. Thank you for joining me today as we explored this drama. If you enjoyed this reaction and review, please remember to subscribe for more insightful videos. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps our channel grow. As always, I'm truly grateful for your support and for joining me on this journey on the Review Garden. Until next time, and happy listening. Bye.